hello everybody, and thanks for coming. This session is about enhancing the Software Center user experience, and this is a spec that this is the third time we've had a spec like this. We did it for Maverick and Natty, and generally it's not like the other Software Center specs where we're dealing with a big new feature that we're adding, like ratings and reviews or new apps on a stable release. This one is more of a collection of items that we think will make Software Center better and more fun to use and more pleasant. And so this spec is generally driven by a couple of different things. One of them is MPP spec for the Software Center itself. Usually kind of breaks out for each release. It breaks out like some new features we could add, and they tend to be smallish to medium size. We also, for Natty, we had the benefit of Charlene's usability testing, and that drove a lot of the stuff we did. We found out, that some things that seemed like small problems were really large problems, and so we worked in a bunch of those things.
Was this the stuff during the Natty cycle, or was this the testing sort of at the end?
This was the testing at the beginning that she sort of talked about at last UDS. And then the last thing is stuff that comes out of this session. So if we could just, the best thing would be is if we got ideas, from you guys, and a good, a better idea of what you guys think are problems and what's annoying you and things that you would like to see happen. So I thought maybe like one of the big ones last time that became really clear from the usability testing was performance, specifically the startup performance. That was because under Unity, you would click the button, people would click the Software Center icon and nothing would happen. And you'd click it again, and you'd click it again, and you'd click it again. And we sort of set up a facility to test startup time pretty much whenever we want, every build. And MBO did this, and it's put it up in a graph. We could watch it. So we could watch it as it improves, and we can also watch as we regress. So that, we did make big strides there, both with startup time and like performance of the list views. And now I'm wondering if there are other things that people still think just too slow. Or
Yes, I think you listed in the ASOPad already, but specifically when opening that files, we can skip some of the loading or postpone some of the loading, so that would be good to fix that.
There's potential for, before you finish loading, to show some sort of visual.
That's not pretty self-contained, so perhaps we should be able to make good progress, like show all the most interesting stuff while still loading in the background.
Right. I mean, in the general case.
Oh, you mean like a splash screen?
Well, if not a splash screen, just
get stuff up.
Yeah.
Just the normal UI while the rest is loading in the background. Right?
Yeah.
So maybe you won't be able to search for the first 4 seconds.
Right. So is anybody, I pasted the whiteboard. There were a lot of items added to the whiteboard, actually a whole lot over the past week and a half. So I pasted that into the Etherpad. But if anybody feels like I want bigger icons, okay?
Where?
Should we talk about that?
Bigger items like in the categories overview or in general. Hello, IRC.
It's me, yes, okay. The Software Center, very, very small icons in the left side, and people can't see the application very good. So it's best to have bigger icons and less text.
in the list view. Okay.
Well, a lot of it,
Maybe many.
Yeah, it's interesting.
a lot of those icons come from that install document.
Yeah, yeah. So the quality of the icon data we have is kind of, it varies very much. So going to 64 by default we may not be there yet. It may look really blurry for some, but it's definitely worth just experimenting with it. I mean, it's really simple to just change the size and see what it looks like, and it may encourage the application authors to include better icons, like having 64 icons by default, or at least available.
Because, for example, another software like the iPhone and the Chrome, you have bigger icons. Sometimes you don't have text unless we click on something.
Right.
Would it be good as a matter of policy to say that the software center icon should match the Unity launcher icon it creates when possible?
Background colors, like the little cloud.
Background colors, the scalability at least, right? It seems like an obvious visual indicator if I install an app that looks like this and get something that looks like that.
I guess you should quite easily be able to get the list of all software and app install that doesn't have something that's scalable enough for 64.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Okay.
true.
So at least we can open the report or something or the upstream.
Would there be any size issues though? I mean, like how big would the install document should be?
Well, maybe, but then we need to solve this independently. I mean, we should,
Yeah.
sacrifice quality just because, yeah, it gets a little bit bigger.
A couple of people have said they just want all new icons.
All new.
Yeah, just refresh the whole icon set. And also the software center icon itself. A new icon.
Right.
Yeah, it's something we asked for early.
Yeah, sounds like we would to ask for input from the design team. I know that there is talk about generally refreshing the icon set, but
Well,
Yeah.
I have no roadmap or anything like this.
in the software center case in particular, right, we had the usability tests where a significant chunk of people confused what the picture was.
Yeah, it's not very obvious. That's true.
I remember the article I saw. Canonical conducts Ubuntu usability experience. Users correctly identify applications as garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is also very small buttons, so for touch-based laptops, you can't click on, for example, the selection, or there are many small buttons at the bottom, and you can only click them using the mouse. If we want to trigger it, it's very small.
Which one? Like there is the next item on the list is simplified the UI, and we could make it more touch friendly, because it seems like a lot of laptops have touch, and there's other devices with touch. So it's probably a good idea to talk about this as well. So yeah, generally, I mean, being more touch friendly is a good idea, I guess.
Also in that simplify the UI section, there's this remove the left navigation pane. And
Yeah.
I basically agree, but we need to talk about where we put what is currently in it.
Exactly.
Especially in the case where you have tons of PPAs or whatever.
So MPT is thinking about this, or doesn't really have.
Okay, well, it's his job, so.
Yeah, so MPT City is thinking about this, and
but doesn't have a clear idea where to go with it.
Right, but he's aware of the problem, that it is useful information for a lot of people. It's also very easy to see what's on sale. I mean, having this big, for purchase item, having this big, like, you know, extras like this.
Because I think it would be good enough just having it on the main screen somewhere. You don't necessarily need it on every single page.
Yeah, it just tends to, people feel it tends to waste a lot of space. I mean, if you have a lot of PPAs, you're really using it, but most people don't. So it's sort of a lot of stuff up in the corner, and then just a big white area. We've even had some people who don't realize you can expand those. So for them, you know, they're seeing these two little items,
Yeah.
big white.
Yeah, a big screen of nothing.
And that's, you know, that's a problem. If they don't know they can expand that, they actually don't know. So we had a bug where someone couldn't find before purchase software, and it was just because it wasn't expanded.
And the expander is tiny. I mean, it's really hard to see. So yeah. I wonder if it wouldn't be worthwhile to just expand it by default.
Yeah, especially like that get software.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
So another thing we added was integration with the Unity launcher, and we had sort of a big plan where as you were installing an application, you would be given a chance to ask to install it to the launcher, and it would actually fly the icon. This is what NPT spec initially. It would fly the icon to the launcher, and then show the install progress right in the launcher. But what we have is some reduced version of that. If you're installing an app, you know, it brings up the offer to add it to the launcher, and you can just do that. There's no animations or anything, but it works. At the end of the install, it will appear there. So I'm wondering if people have tried that, if it seems like obvious that you're getting that chance to do this. It slides in. I don't know if people notice it. I'm wondering if there are problems with this.
Long installs, you often even navigate to other windows, right?
Right, and then you
And you notice any movement in software center.
Yeah, what I was thinking is if we do use the Unity style launcher icons, like if the software isn't installed, we can use it without backlight. So that's basically a black icon with the edge around it. And when it is installed, we use the backlight, so the colored version. And then we can, if we allow people to just drag that icon to the launcher, if it looks visually the same, then
Would it be reasonable or even possible, I guess, to have the icon in the Unity launcher before the software is installed and then blacked out or whatever, and then color it up when it...
I'm pretty sure, like when we talked about this, the UX guys were of a pretty firm opinion that it should be an opt-in, like you know, you should do something in order to get it into the launcher in some way or the other. It should not appear automatically for all the stuff you install.
Well, even that said, right, if you click install and then you see the add to Unity launcher immediately rather than after it installs.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the original plan. Yes, we can do it. We have the icon.
Drag and drop is hard to discover, and it's not accessibility friendly, but it's such a nice...
yeah, no processor edition rather than the
Yeah,
ODB.
exactly. Yeah, it's...
The other thing with that as well is if you're running it in full screen, the add to the Unity launcher button is like the bottom right hand side of the desktop.
So your mouse has to travel a long way.
You're not going to see it. If you're looking at the app at the top,
Right.
you're not going to see it button down the bottom right.
That's true. So it should be closer to the install button.
Yeah.
So maybe slide in from the top or
Or,
something.
or what might be better, you know how you've got 4 additional plugins for certain things, so you've got a checkbox, and then you click on apply changes or whatever it is.
Right.
Do something similar for the launcher.
Right.
a bit.
Has there
If
been
only PT was here.
Yeah.
Has there been the consideration of, I mean, update manager is definitely the same thing, but given that once everybody got the idea that package management was a good idea and made their app stores, I think in most of those interfaces there's an opportunity to get an update, and forgive me if that's now in the software center. I'm having some kernel problems with Natty. So, has there been consideration of adding the initiation of an update from within the software center?
We talked about it, but like we felt that it's a distinct enough use case that it's okay to have its own application. Whether or not that's true, it's up to debate, but
I think some of the other paradigms that are similar to the software center that are out there, like on iOS or on Android, it is presented in this like interface.
yeah, I know. So the argument is most of the time when you go to Software Center, you are interested in getting new software. You're not really, you don't want to be bothered with, updates which, usually don't get you anything. And the thing is, in iOS and Android, when you get updates, you may get new features, and maybe more exciting than our updates, because our updates are just bug fixes and security fixes.
I think concern bug fix is exciting.
Right. Yeah, if you're affected by this bug, but generally, if I get a new kernel that works much better on a MacBook Pro, I have a Lenovo,
Exactly my problem. The kernel on
Okay. Yeah, so currently no plans for this, but
Okay. Just curious.
I don't know if this is specifically in this session, but sometimes I see things in the application lens that suggest to install. Is there any way you could make it so I can install it from there without like bringing up the whole Software Center UI?
so can you describe it again for me?
Okay, like sometimes, well, like, okay, so say I want to open my text editor, I'm writing some code, so I hit the Windows key and I type in text, and then it says gedit, which I always use, but then at the bottom it also says Genie. I'm like, oh, I've heard of Genie. It says like options to install or something like that.
Oh,
It
so
says,
like in the terminal.
yeah, then, no, in the
dash.
in the dash
Oh, in the dash,
lens.
right.
And then but then when I click it, it opens the whole Software Center and everything. I'd like to be able to just like click it and just have it install, or maybe open the Software Center in the like already installing. I don't know. That
Yeah, I see what you mean.
yeah. Have you guys considered that?
No, it's like technically it's not very hard to do. The question is, I guess most people will actually want to see more information before installing. So it does make some
Yeah.
sense to open up some information about it with an option to, because just icon and name may be very misleading.
Yeah. Makes sense. Like maybe if they have in the dash the more information already there, then you could just start installing.
Turns out kind of like looking for something in the dash, clicking on an app and then clicking on this drive instead of install.
Yeah, something you may
Do it. Yeah. Is that okay?
We also
So
wanted-
put test drive in the dash.
But one cool feature we could do here is, for example, if you drag and drop it to your launcher, it would just install it.
Install it for you. Bang. That would, or bring up the Software Center already and show the UI already
Yeah.
installing, so you can cancel it and stuff there.
Right.
All right.
So, another issue that I've come across is that's the default screen size.
Yeah.
So, where's the featured applications and
Right. Yeah, you need to scroll. That's true.
I think it would be better if you opened to that page with those two on.
Right. Yeah.
And then when you select produced by Ubuntu, it then gave you the categories page.
See, in these views that most people who work in categories will know to see the picture, and you new items, so that's why he's always insisted that categories go above, those kind of carousels.
Yeah, that's really too bad. I mean, in that case, you might never know those things are there.
Yeah.
You'll never know.
So if we don't have the recommenders link up the top, we may be able to squeeze it so that we at least get it featured, just so that people see some icons, some software.
So as an action item, either make the screen bigger or move recommended somewhere else so that we at least
Well,
show the
that's
featured
the
stuff.
kind of ideal size for a netbook,
Yeah,
which is where the problem lies.
exactly.
Can you detect the screen size for the default window? I mean, if the user has modified it, that's obviously what to do, but
Yeah, we can.
This is gonna be crazy, you're gonna hate me, but is there any way, like, we could have apps categorized by, like, good for a netbook, good for a desktop?
Funny that you mentioned it. We talked about it, like a similar topic when it came to maturity ratings. We had that text exactly. We talked about using having hardware information like requires GA, requires more than 2 gigs of memory or something. So we could have requires a certain screen size, for example, or netbook is
Well,
potentially another.
I might make it do it in a nicer way, like great on a netbook,
Yeah.
great on, like as a.
Yeah, I mean, talking about like what backend system, like how we present it is a different matter.
But you guys have already thought about similar requirements, it sounds
Yeah.
like.
So that might be something we can tie into ratings for reviews. And then have it flagged at the top of the rating.
or to the new Software Center web UI where you can, so that users can have like add a tag to it, basically saying this looks great on a netbook, but this doesn't work great on a netbook. Maybe.
Well, no, can we get something like based on the name of the computer or something like that? Like when they rate.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, like identify that on the client is not a good deal. You can look if it's an Atom processor.
Yeah.
Performance will probably not as good as a core. So that's doable.
I'm missing two different issues actually. How powerful the machine is and what's the screen size.
Yeah. But on a network they are kind of tied together. But yeah, so generally it's
Well,
at least two
I
dynamics.
guess you can find, I'm pretty sure I've got some my desk on my because that book that has the 24 by 600, but with some crazy AMD, dual core, VT, what else?
Right.
So it has an HDMI output. I can use the desktop in full HD if I plug something on it. But it still has crappy network resolutions.
Yeah. That's a good point. There was someone here in the back who raised his hand. Oh, sure.
Yeah, as we know, Ubuntu users are scattered all over the world. But currently, I don't think Software Center work for native speaking country. So, there's only English in the Software Center. When users not in English speaking country, they're trying to search a software, they get nothing. So that's maybe the kind of problem for the rest of the world. We know Android market and Apple App Store has multi-language applications, so users can install apps, but not in Software Center.
And so this is a bug that we're going to fix.
Well, the problem is all those applications in the Software Center may just has only English descriptions. There's hundreds of thousands of packages in the repository, right? So I know maybe it's hard to translate all these software for. I know it's hard. Do we have any ideas solving that?
Like generally this problem is kind of solved. So we have infrastructure to translate package descriptions,
Yeah.
and we have infrastructure to translate like the short summary and the application name.
Yeah.
So if you have a, say, German machine that is your locale is German, then you will get German package description, you will get German like summaries and application names, and if you search for a German string, you will get German results. Unfortunately, for Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, like the CGK languages, we have problems when it comes to searching because of the way Sapien works. It has issues around, as I understand it, tokenizing like the strings in a CGK language. So this is a problem that is high priority to us. Unfortunately, it's hard because it's really deep down in our like search infrastructure in Sapien. We do have an active translations project for the package descriptions. So I encourage users to go to Launchpad and actually help translating package descriptions because we use them and they will be displayed in Software Center.
Is it, who's responsible for the translation? The volunteers or?
Yeah, it's volunteers.
Right, but I mean, there's 100,000 packages in the repository. It is impossible to put those packages to the Launchpad and make user to translate screens or I don't know.
Could we feed them through Google Translate?
You know
Well,
that.
probably don't want
No.
the output of that. That'd be better than.
I
No.
use that for bugs all the time.
What's that?
I use that for bugs all the time. When somebody files a bug in another language, I just go and I say, here it is from Google Translate. A lot of people say, oh, please type it in English.
Maybe we can offer an icon or something in the UI for people to send it to Google Translate, but most people would pretty rather read it in English than having it Google Translate.
Most people who speak English.
Yeah.
Yes, well, most people who have some basic notions of English would probably prefer.
So, is it possible to have Software Center know the translation status of the actual software, and then say, like, because we translate the everything in the package description, the application name, and it's all in your language, and then you install the software, and you get it unusable, right?
So we can detect the key set that a person's using correctly. So is it worth flagging that an application isn't translated and having the Launchpad icon to go to and take you straight to the Launchpad translate for that?
So it's absolutely worth flagging it. We don't have the infrastructure for doing it yet. Like it's probably not very hard because Launchpad has the information, like what percentage of the strings are translated. So what we would need to do is we need to export this information and add it as, say, a dep tag to the package description, basically invisible to the user, but machine readable for Software Center. And we could have like, less than 50% translated, more than 75% translated, 100 or 90% translated, which would be really good. I mean, then we could really display.
Would you store the information for language?
It would have to be per language, yeah.
So that's going to be a pretty long
Yeah,
description.
it's
It pretty should be some web service that gets
Yeah,
access.
The other way around it might just be to put a little tag at the bottom of the information saying, do you see this in English? If so, click here to translate.
That's a good idea, yeah.
And then you get around the whole of that.
Should you be able to know what locale they're in and what the description is coming through as?
Yeah, so sometimes the description is mixed because we like it works on paragraphs. So if one paragraph may be translated, then you have an English one, then you have a translated one again. So it's not right. But yeah, having that would be a really simple thing.
That would be the simplest way around it.
And yeah, there's I guess two different problems really. We want to have package description translated, and for that we can worst case scenario just show some icon doing a Google Translate code in the background to translate it, and showing the status of the actual app when installed. Saying, well, there's no much point having a translated description if the app is going to be completely translated when you install it.
Yeah.
So you need to have some way of flagging that as well.
I think a Launchpad button would be reasonable anyway because users might want to ask a question or something. So we get general support for the application and we know source of the launchpad, so you know where to ask.
I guess, I mean, part of this problem about translated applications or untranslated solves itself using ratings and reviews. I mean, if a Chinese user installs an application that is in English, he will probably write a review saying, looks nice, but it's untranslated, so unusable for me, and gives it 1 star. So all Chinese all Chinese users will see this review and say, oh, maybe I shouldn't install it, you know.
Are the reviews isolated by locale?
Yeah.
And also, those packages for those applications are mostly translated just for UIs. The descriptions and summaries in the software center, I see no way.
Are you using a fully localized system like this, or is your system user in your local language?
I use English locale, but
Right.
friend of mine are using local locales.
Okay. So can you find a bug or get in touch with me or Gary afterwards? Because this is a bug. I mean, it's supposed to have translated descriptions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have this bug.
Ja, just tried in within the German session.
Well, yeah, it's currently it's using the system locale. So but if you do a full Chinese or German install.
Yes, I tried on my laptop oder Linkbox install.
Okay.
So Michael, there's
There's a bug somewhere.
there is a bug. It's linked to the the Chin
Mhm.
Chinese Ubuntu ISO. There was a spec for that yesterday,
Okay.
and so those 2 bugs are both there, and it seems to be something about first installation.
Okay. Yeah, we should talk about it afterwards.
But both of those are flagged. I mean, they're both high priority now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that the Software Center has ratings and recommendations, or at least ratings, maybe I won't be going to the internet to find a certain package for a certain task. But in the past, that's okay, there are about 1 million CD drivers. So in several instances, having the actual package name obscured by then, I'm not even sure where the alternative name comes from, is a bit problematic. Like if you open up the Software Center and you search for sound juicer, for instance, you only get 1 result. And if you click through to more info, then and if you look carefully, it does say that it's sound juicer if you look at the package details.
Right.
But I mean, even more mundane things, like there's the kind of more user-friendly, here's what it does kind of name. But if you're used to working with your packages by the package name, it'd be nice if it wasn't quite so obscure.
Right. I think somebody mentioned that like just 2 days ago as a bug. I don't know if it was you, but
No.
yeah, for some packages, the package name itself is the brand. That's what you're saying. And yeah, in our description, our details page, it's really kind of buried. It's gray. It's in parentheses. And there's a bug that somebody just opened. It said, "Can we make the package name, promote it?"
You don't even just somewhere where it's not very 2 to 3 layers deep.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I think the more friendly kind of names are just fine, but I do want to, I've looked for how to install something that I've already had installed on my system because how it shows up in a launcher. is
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, that's what we're calling it now. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a bug that just got entered. And,
Okay, well.
I don't know if MBT would have an opinion.
I think because we get the user-friendly names from the desktop files, and I think it's fair that we have an expectation that those names should be identifiable.
Yeah,
So
it's a minor
perhaps it's
price.
something that the packages need to do, because I'm not sure whether there's much that we as Software Center,
Oh, okay.
because if you like Sound Juicer, perhaps Sound Juicer should really have Sound Juicer CD extractor as its name.
But instead it's, audio extractor. Okay.
But still, if we just took the package name and just put it somewhere a little more obvious, that's probably all, right?
Yeah, and I think it gives credit to the package developers as well. So, or for that matter, if you want to, like, all right, there's a problem with this, and I'm going to dig into it. I'm going to go look up a bug or file a bug. Like, you're filing it against something that actually doesn't match the.
That's true.
Right. So, you want to go on? Possible move to WebKit?
Yeah, sure.
No.
What was that? Yeah, so I don't know who put this one in, but there's an item for possible move to WebKit for app pages.
I'll go click this bug offends me.
I'm sorry.
I'll go click this bug offends me.
Oh. So this is something that we actually used to have.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. We used to have it, but it didn't feel quite right for a desktop application. There were, small latency issues around it that are perfectly fine for a web page where you expect a certain latency, but for a desktop application, it just didn't feel very smooth. So, yeah, but one idea we came up when we talked about general software center stuff was that we would want to have we will need to move to GTK3 at some point. So having a way, having say a plugin interface where we can easily exchange the package details page with a different page, like a GTK one, a GTK3 one, or a WebKit one, would be really interesting, because that would open up the possibility for, even if we, go along and add GTK3, somebody else may, work on a plugin that displays the package details in WebKit, and if it turns out that, it's much better, then we could just enable this plugin by default and disable the other one. So, and again, this would help us with GTK3 as well, because we could potentially at least, technical issues aside, gradually port, which will not work for GTK3, but it will work for other stuff. So that's it's an interesting case that supports the idea of potentially a plugin interface doing stuff like this. Who could improve the experience when installing deb files directly? Like what GDB functionality is missing?
Oh no, yeah, it's only that specifically.
Oh, it's not fast
means
enough.
Just the speed. Yeah, just the fact that it comes up and for a second you see the main category page, and then so it's just fix that up.
Right.
So I think we already talked about
Yeah.
that.
So search improvements. Facets is wonderful. Like faceted search, where it will say, if you have a lot of results, like if you search for game and you get loads of results, having a little screen on the left or the right saying, are you looking for action games, role-playing games, whatever games, automatically generated based on the data we have. I mean, that would be really, really cool. And like the deb text stuff that Enrico Zini did allows a lot of this. So once we get support for this from Soyuz, we should be able to do interesting things here. Support for categories in purchase. I don't know. I mean,
We don't have enough.
yeah, we don't have enough purchase items currently, so that it's justifying this.
Yeah, I suppose if we get more, there's not much.
Yeah.
It's not terribly hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could split it games and apps. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which maybe, a good start. Other people like Android, as far as I know, do the same.
Well, I think they've got the same categories as they have
or they have subcategories. So apparently it's games and apps, and then subcategories for games, subcategories for apps.
Well, I got a friend who wants to install applications to guide your Ubuntu-powered robots, and that's a very non-game, non-application type thing I can think of. So,
Right.
But that requires hardware requirements too.
Games, apps, and robots. A more dynamic list for featured applications. Yeah, that's like, we have someone from ISD here, which is good. So we want to have a REST call to say what applications are featured this week, or what applications are featured for Natty.
Would it make sense to build that into the ratings and reviews API?
Ratings and reviews or the web. It's an anonymous call, so it should be really simple to do. Okay.
Frankly, what's being used to build the featured list?
It's just a static text file, basically.
Oh, okay, fine.
So just we talk about what is cool,
Okay.
and then somebody decides what is cool, and then
Okay.
we edit.
It's
But it's
in the
part of
center package.
Yeah, exactly.
So this list will get much more interesting as we get more apps flowing in. That's part of the problem too. We don't have so many apps coming in, so
I'm pretty was correct. I was using for WebLive initially that gets the top 50 apps out of ratings and review. Right. Doing some filtering, avoiding some stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't that interesting because it was made natty cycle, so we didn't really have any good data on that.
And a lot of high-rated apps are already installed by default. But yeah.
No, I was excluding anything that wasn't so by default.
Yeah, this would be a very good thing to do, like automatically generating this.
It was actually looking for 50 apps that you don't have on your system.
So this
Nice.
IRC critical suggestions.
Sorted by rating.
Yeah, possibility to tag applications by users.
Yeah, so we, okay.
Is that uses?
Users. I'm using Software Center. I see an app while reviewing it. I add tags.
Okay, so we actually have a session after this about ratings and reviews enhancements.
And the system requirements stuff kind of fell into the decision we had the other day.
So I think the one thing relevant here though is that if you have a tagging system set up in the system review, it would want to be searchable outside of looking at the review, right? So Software Center would need a way of knowing that as all the apps have added more tags to them dynamically to be able to,
Yeah. Thanks, Sam. That's an interesting. It's an interesting idea. Sorting is definitely needed. And tags are very interesting. I mean, we want to do depth tags. We do need some server-side support for this, and we do need to have a way of editing tags easily, like using, say, Launchpad or the new Software Center Web UI, in order to make it really useful.
A complaint that I often hear with the Software Center has to do with, so I search for a particular type of application that I'm looking for. I've heard this from people that I have helped install Ubuntu, and they're, Software Center, cool, and they try it out, and like, I searched for this application, I got like 10 results, which is fine, that's normal for them, and like Android or iOS, but they start installing them, and they're just a bunch of really crappy, old, wrong toolkits, unmaintained, terrible features, crashy, buggy. And in that list somewhere there actually is a good one, but it wasn't anywhere near the first one they installed. It was like the 7th.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So this thing about sorting by rating, there could be a way to leverage that. So I mean, automatically sorting by rating and even maybe featuring somehow the
Right.
ones that are clearly coming out on top of the rating systems. I don't know, so that
Yeah.
people look at it first, not seven.
Right, yeah. And we could sort by popcorn at one point.
We
but
did
then
it.
it fell right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, we did it, but it wasn't ideal either, because it massively, no, it skyrocketed all the install application basically.
yeah,
So
yeah,
if you search for web browser, Firefox would always come up on top.
Yeah, I mean, people from Google and similar things, they're used to very first thing
Yeah.
being the one. And if reviews just sorted that way, even if we didn't highlight, but I like the idea of
Yeah.
highlighting someone that really gets good reviews.
Mhm.
But you can see those stars there, and the apps that you talk about that turn out to be crap and really bad, they'll just hopefully have low ratings and people will just go, yeah.
But it also matters the order, you know,
Yeah.
because stars are one thing. If I can, you know, if we can train people to really care about those stars, but sometimes they care way more about the icon.
Yeah.
I think you'd be surprised. They look at them and the first thing they see is, well, that's the one that has a pretty icon.
Yeah.
And they install that one.
Yeah.
You know, so order and featuring, making them a little bit larger, things like that can really draw people to the correct.
Yeah, it sounds great.
with an asterisk, correct application.
Yeah, almost like the stars being on the far right column as opposed to the big side.
You think yeah, that's a good point actually.
It's less easy to quickly just scan the apps and
Right,
see
because you always have to go.
you're having a dark.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, you scanning left and right over and over and over.
And that might not be
Yeah, they could be there on the left one. I think
the
that
time.
is, yeah. Yeah.
There is also a problem with there's a problem with star-based ratings because most of the time users either select 5 stars or 1. So we don't have people that have 3. So we maybe move system like I like this application and I don't like this application and select how many people like it. So by this number we can then we'll move to that. This is good.
I don't know, I think really people do like being able to say, I see a lot of reviews where people say 3 or 4, and a lot of people won't get 5 unless, you know.
I
it's really
actually
excellent.
see on almost every application that has reviews, I'll see like 4 or 3,
Yeah,
2-star.
like
reviews.
Yelp.
I haven't seen that.
Because, for example, in YouTube, they use it star-based ratings, and they found that it doesn't show the reviews not there, so they move to I like this people, I don't like.
And we could look at that data and see if we're not getting much, but just from my looking through ratings constantly, I see lots of 3s, 4s, 2s.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. We should look at the distribution of the data and see. It's probably not a proper curve, but it would be interesting to see what what the distribution is.
We've got the helpful tags.
Oh yeah.
So you've got, was this review helpful? Which is basically exactly the same like this or no like this. So if you weighted on that as well as.
Well, that's saying we like a review on maybe like some
Yeah, but it's a similar thing. If somebody's written a bad review and you say, yeah, that's right, then obviously to drop lower in the ratings when you say, yes, that's right, to a good review.
Do you, any of you have a statistics background by chance? Want to actually play with the data in a meaningful way?
Like, if it was a good review, like, could we somehow weight that data so that when we went sorted stuff, you know, like that review, and more, I don't know, somehow.
I think we would weight by usefulness.
Then you have these questions like how much weighting,
Yeah.
all
Right,
this
right.
sort of stuff. So
I wonder if there's stuff out there. You know, I mean, that's, Amazon has 5 stars.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yelp
there
has
is.
5 stars.
Right,
It's people are really just
I'm sure there is research around this
Yeah.
that we can just use.
right, and some systems will weight it based on the user's average ratings. So like if I only give 5-star and 1-star, my 5 stars are a little less meaningful.
So
Yeah.
we have, according to my clock, at least 2 minutes left in the session.
Yeah, 3 minutes but until I gotta stay, but yeah. Okay. So
We can spend it debating how much time we have.
yeah.
So what really important topics do people like have on their minds? Like what is a pressing issue?
I guess the stuff we discussed, what is
Sorting my ratings would be, I think,
Yeah.
Solid.
pretty key, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great that they're there, that's a huge thing, thanks.
Yeah.
Being able to sort by them, I mean, that's what I want in there for.
Being able to sort by them and sorting by them by default.
Yeah,
If
sorting-
you have the ability to change sort, that's fine, but start with.
Right. A second.
Anybody else?
Software Center rocks. Good release, you guys.
It really does.
Really
Yeah.
good.
I'm very happy with it.
Solid.
Well, obviously, as yeah.
What do your shirts say?
Soccer Center.
You
You
would
made
do
them.
you would do software
Would
center
software
time
center-
for some rock and roll? Ratings and reviews, of course.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,